Welcome to the channel's book club. Thank you for joining us. Last week, we showed you a book reading event hosted by Raleigh Gallery. The two guest authors were Victor Ehika-Meno, author of the creative non-fiction book titled Excuse Me, and Toni Khan, author of the fiction novel Night of the Creaking Bed. The turnout was impressive and the event was fun. Both authors read from their books and responded to questions from an enthusiastic audience. We promised to show you an interview we had with Toni Khan at the gallery, and we'll be doing so today. Khan has been writing for over 24 years. Apart from his love for fiction, he also writes non-fiction, either as a co-author or a ghostwriter. I engaged him on a number of issues related to Nigerian writers and literature. Enjoy the interview. Toni, it's nice to have you on the channel's book club again. It's been a long time.
Yes.
I like your hat.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Toni, what have you been up to recently? What have you been writing?
Well, set up a new business, Sabi News, an online magazine. Then I'm also trying to finish my novel, The Carnivorous City, which is out next year on Cassava Republic. Okay. We finished Jimmy Jack's biography. Then we're working on another one, coming out next year. So we've been busy. So
you've been doing both fiction, non-fiction writings, yes, and so on. Now, let me start with fiction. Is it worth writing fiction in Nigeria? Nobody I know who has written any fiction novel has sold a few thousands of copies.
Well, I'm not sure that's true. My book, I think this is about the 5th or 6th print. I asked for a copy, they sent me 100 copies. So I get a quarterly royalty statement. So it's selling, and it's selling.
How many copies of this have you sold?
The first payment I got was for 4,000 copies.
4,000.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'll be getting payment, but first one was 4,000 copies.
That's a lot, yeah, considering Nigeria. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have the figure, but I'm sure we should have done about maybe almost 10,000 copies by now.
About 10,000
yeah,
copies?
I think so, because it's been on for 5 years, 6 years now. And it's been read in different schools.
But why are Nigerians not selling enough fiction novels?
I think, one, the books are not good. Let's be frank. Secondly, the books are expensive. This is 800 naira, which is what it's sold for, which is very rare.
800 naira.
800 naira, yes. So it's not self-published, so there's somebody who's printing it and doing it right, marketing it right. When this book came out, I went to Kenya for a book reading. I went to Kano, I went to Abuja, I went to Port Harcourt. I didn't pay a dime. So when the structures are right, for marketing the book, it will sell, and the book is good. So that's basically, the truth.
Are you saying there's a problem with self-publishing?
Yeah, of course. It limits you. If you have a good book, you convince you have a good book, you can publish it by yourself. But then you don't have the structure. You have a day job. How much can you promote it? How much can you travel with? How much can you sell it? So once it's self-published, it means you have the burden of selling the book and making it get out there.
But there are very few publishers in Nigeria that accept fiction novels.
Well, when you say accept,
yeah, I accept that.
Yeah, when you accept
that publish fiction novels,
because they have to get a good book to sell.
Are you saying Nigerian publishers are not accepting fiction because the fiction books are not good enough?
My publishers are Nigerian.
Because I don't think they can make enough money from selling fiction novels.
My friends, they are Nigerian. Bibi Bakari Yusuf is my publisher, Cassava Republic. Yeah. They asked me to send my manuscript. I sent my manuscript, and they liked it and they published it. And I'm sure they received 100 or so other manuscripts which they didn't like. So it's a business, one. So anybody who takes a book to publish wants to make back money from that book.
Yes.
So they have to take the book they think will sell.
Yes.
That's one. Secondly, they have to also push the book, which they've done very well with this book. Won an award, it wasn't shortlisted for other awards. So it's done well critically. It's also done well commercially, which is really very rare. Okay. Most commercially successful books are not very critically accepted. Most critically accepted books are not very commercial.
My thinking has always been that Nigerian publishers don't accept fiction because, based on their calculations, they can't sell enough fiction novels to make their money because Nigerians hardly read
Well, Chimamanda,
Nigerian fiction.
Chimamanda's book, I mean, is on YX syllabus. So any publisher who has that cannot go wrong. Farafina publishes fiction. Kasaba, publishes fiction. Their short stories, Ken Price short stories sell very well in Nigeria. So it's to understand what the market wants and give it to them at a price that, you know, people will buy.
Does the Nigerian market want fiction?
Of course.
Fiction written by Nigerians?
Of course, I mean, under military rule, we had a proliferation of poets. We did a lot of poetry. But since democracy came, I mean, I'm trying to also research on that to see what happened. You know, since democracy came with the Ken Prize, we've seen people gravitate more towards fiction. So I think that in the next 5 years, there should be an upswing in publishers doing fiction books. I think so, because people are writing more fiction and writing very good fiction too. Yeah. Okay,
so if I hear you well, you're saying if the right structures are there.
Yes. I mean, remember that, I mean, these same people published Lachinanyi's book, you know, Obasegi's Wives.
Yes.
So,
The Secret Lives of Obasegi's Wives.
And these are very good selling books, you know. Yeah, so.
But compared to books in the West, for example, how well are they doing? Maybe the answer to that question is obvious.
Yes. You see, when we say books in the West, right, we seem to assume that everybody in the West sells 1 million copies of his books. It's not true. The bestseller books, you know, as far as I know, I mean, on New York Times bestseller list, to get on that bestseller list for the week, you have to sell 1,000 copies that week.
1,000 copies
that week.
That week.
Yes.
And there are few writers that can make that happen.
So, if that is the criteria. I mean, for music, they say you have to do 500,000 to go gold, 1 million to go platinum. So we're talking about just 1,000 books to be on the bestseller list for that week.
1 week.
Yes.
Oh.
So that means if you're on that list for 10 weeks, that means 10,000 copies. Okay? And very few writers stay on that list for more than 10, 15 weeks. So we're saying that the average lifespan the average sales figure for a best-selling fiction novel might be 20,000, 50,000 copies. If you now win a prize, you might go to 100,000. But how many people win a prize in a year? Okay, so if a book does 10,000 copies for fiction, I think you've done very well.
Very well.
Very well. Very
That's
well.
True.
Yeah, because then of course you have to now look at it going down into schools, into libraries and stuff. And so, but I think that 10,000 copies of a book is fantastic.